The film opens with a green field on a brightly lit morning. Elizabeth Bennet, whose nickname is Lizzie, walks along the field, finishing a book. She walks through bridges and houses and finally reaches home. At home, Lizzie's sisters run around and giggle. Upon coming home, she overhears her mother telling her father excitedly that Netherfield, a nearby estate, has been taken. Her father doesn't show much interest in the estate, but her sisters sure do. They tell her Mr. Bingley, a wealthy gentleman from London, has taken it. They're all excited to know about him since he's said to be very handsome and rich, a perfect man of the times. Mrs. Bennet urges Mr. Bennet to talk to Mr. Bingley about his daughters, as he's a very suitable match for any of his daughters. Mr. Bennet pays no heed to Mrs. Bennet's words. He finally exclaims that he has already met Mr. Bingley. He enjoys playing his low-key detached persona and watches his wife get more anxious by the second. He finally says he's been friends with Mr. Bingley's family for years and would agree for any of his daughters to marry him. His daughters cheer in excitement and ask if he'd be coming to the ball tomorrow. All of the Bennet daughters squeal in excitement. Lizzie and her elder sister Jane smile with pleasure, whilst the younger sisters Lydia and Kitty jump up and down and immediately begin to beg Jane to borrow her prettiest dresses and shoes. At the ball, the entire party is dancing, talking and laughing. Lizzie's sisters all seem to be giddy about being out in public in front of gentlemen and want to find an exemplary suitor for themselves. Lizzie teases Jane, saying every man at the ball is in love with her. They stand to the side observing the dance, and Lizzie tells Jane that she has no intention of ever marrying. Finally, the room goes silent as Mr. Bingley enters the hall, along with his sister Caroline and his extremely wealthy friend Mr. Darcy. Mrs. Bennet urges her husband to instantly introduce their girls to Mr. Bingley. Lizzie, on the other hand, makes fun of Mr. Darcy, who might be extremely rich but just miserable. She laughs at his stern face but makes sure Jane gets noticed by Mr. Bingley. Mrs. Bennet wastes no time in introducing her daughters to the newcomers. While Mr. Darcy and Miss Bingley have no interest to start a conversation, Mr. Bingley strikes up a conversation with Jane and Elizabeth. He is very cheerful and pleasant. He and Jane take an immediate liking to each other. They soon dance with each other and Mrs. Bennet is delighted. As the dance proceeds, Kitty and Lydia run up to their mother and tell her excitedly that they heard the militia are to stay in their town for the winter. This means lots of opportunities to meet men and they can't wait. Mr. Darcy, on the other hand, does not dance at all. The ball continues and Mr. Bingley can't take his eyes off of Jane. Later, Lizzie's family and Mr. Bingley are talking, and Mrs. Bennet brags about Jane the whole time to interest him. Lizzie takes the opportunity to engage in some not very friendly verbal altercation with Mr. Darcy. She walks away from the dance with as negative an impression of him as Jane's positive impression of Bingley. At night, Jane tells Lizzie she really likes Charles Bingley. Lizzie tells her that she would only marry if she falls deeply in love. Lizzie comments how the whole world is beautiful in Jane's eyes, to which Jane replies that Mr. Darcy isn't a nice man. Lizzie tells her she would have forgiven him if only his ego hadn't hurt hers. The two sisters then giggle for the rest of the night. The next morning, Jane receives a letter from Caroline Bingley, inviting her to dinner at Netherfield even though Charles will be away. Jane goes there, but catches a bad cold on the way, and is urged to stay a few more days until she recovers. Mrs. Bennet apparently planned her cold in advance, and sent her on horseback instead of a castle during a rainstorm so as to make her sick. That would make her stay longer with Mr. Bingley. Mrs. Bennet is ecstatic to hear that Jane wouldn't be back for a couple days, and thinks everything is going according to her plan. Lizzie is worried for Jane and walks a long way on the muddy roads to Netherfield to visit Jane. When she enters the elegant parlor with her hair down and wild, with muddy shoes and skirt, Caroline and Mr. Darcy look shocked at her arrival and appearance. Lizzie apologizes for her appearance and confirms she came walking indeed. She inquires about her sister. Darcy quickly replies that Jane is resting. Lizzie is surprised by his quick reaction, but smiles and goes upstairs to Jane. As soon as she has left the room, Caroline Bingley quickly remarks how unruly and disheveled she looks, but Mr. Darcy is thinking of something else. Lizzie checks on Jane and thanks Mr. Bingley for looking after Jane while she is ill. Judging by Mr. Bingley's concern for her sister, Lizzie is positive that Mr. Bingley is in love with Jane. Lizzie stays for a couple of days. Back home, Lizzie's sisters are in awe at the officers passing by. One of them even throws her hanky, but much to her dismay, no one cares. During an encounter in the sitting room, Caroline shows her pretentious and aristocratic attitudes. She mocks Mr. Darcy for wanting a woman who is accomplished in each and every aspect of life. Lizzie snarkily replies to his judgments as well. Mr. Darcy and Lizzie get in verbal spar on what makes a woman truly accomplished. Caroline and Lizzie together make sharp comments to Darcy. Darcy quietly hears them but doesn't respond. He talks about how she never forgives anybody's flaws. During the whole time, Caroline keeps making snarky remarks about the Bennet family, but Lizzie ignores her. Mrs. Bennet and the other 3 daughters all come to Netherfield to pick up Lizzie and Jane. Caroline is extremely irritated by their presence and tries to get rid of them as soon as she can. Mrs. Bennet urges Mr. Bingley to hold a ball soon. All of Lizzie's sisters agree ecstatically, but Lizzie already knows about Caroline's perception of them, so she asks them to quiet down. While getting into the carriage, Elizabeth is shocked when Darcy takes her hand to help her into the carriage. Mr. Darcy doesn't say a word and quickly walks away. Then the dreaded cousin William Collins comes to visit the Bennets. He's the one who's supposed to inherit all of Mr. Bennet's wealth since property isn't passed down to women. No one in the family likes him as he is extremely shallow, pompous, and conceited. He makes patronizing comments about the family, but no one dares say anything. He is only attracted to influence and wealth. Dinner is very tense as the family sees right through him. Lizzie, in particular, mocks him for all his fake facade. After dinner, he approaches Mrs. Bennet about marrying Jane, as he is both rich and finds Jane gorgeous. He informs her that finding a wife among the sisters was the purpose of the visit. Mrs. Bennet says that Jane appears to be engaged, but Lizzie is available. She wants Lizzie to marry Mr. Collins in order to keep their estate. The next morning, the girls go out to see a parade of the militia. One of the lieutenants named Wickham is interested in Lizzie. Lydia and Kitty are awestruck by him, but he has his eyes set on Lizzie. They all go to a nearby store to buy ribbons for the upcoming dance. He even pays for their ribbons, and Lizzie finds him quite endearing and well-poised. On their walk home, they encounter Bingley and Darcy. Darcy and Wickham stare at each other coldly, and Darcy quickly leaves. There is some kind of animosity between the two. After Darcy and Bingley leave, Elizabeth asks Wickham if he knows Mr. Darcy personally, to which he replies that he's known him since birth. Wickham explains that Darcy had cheated him out of Darcy's father's property. He goes on to explain how Darcy and him both were loved by his father, and upon death, he gave some of his property to Wickham. But Darcy never abided by his father's wishes, and presented Wickham with nothing but enmity for life. Elizabeth is shocked at the story, and her opinion of Darcy goes even lower. The family then goes to Bingley's dance. Jane and Bingley stay in each other's presence, whereas Lizzie is particularly interested in finding Wickham, but he isn't there. Collins asks Lizzie to dance with her, to her great disgust. He tries to initiate a conversation the whole night and even subtly tells her about his intention to marry her, but she hardly even looks at him or speaks to him. Jane tells Lizzie that Mr. Wickham has been detained for some work and couldn't come. Just then, Darcy appears and asks Lizzie to dance. She accepts, and then hurries off, stunned as to why Mr. Darcy wants to dance. She claims that she has pledged herself to loathe him for all eternity. During the dance, she engages in conversation with him as Darcy mocks her mannerisms. She then takes the opportunity and mentions Mr. Wickham. Darcy gets extremely uncomfortable and asks Lizzie about her sudden interest in his and Wickham's relationship. She snarkily replies she is confused by who he truly is and wants to make out his character. Darcy just replies that he'd love to provide more clarity in the future. They are so lost in the conversation, it's almost as if they're in a room alone. The dance ends and Lizzie quickly walks away. Collins introduces himself to Darcy in a weird manner, and Caroline makes fun of Lizzie's family because of it. Charlotte, Lizzie's friend, warns her that Jane should show more affection and attention to Mr. Bingley in order to encourage him. Elizabeth defends Jane, claiming that she is reserved and shy, but feels that the attention is enough. Charlotte encourages Lizzie to talk to Jane and make a move on Bingley. Caroline continues to speak ill of Lizzie's family in front of Darcy, and have them leave as soon as possible. Mary, Lizzie's nerdy sister, gets bullied by some other girls, and Mr. Bennet consoles her whilst Lizzie spends some time alone. Bingley smiles at Jane just before the Bennets leave, and Caroline knows the look on her brother's face. She tells him he cannot be serious about marrying Jane, as she doesn't want her brother to marry into such a mediocre and ill-mannered family. The next morning, Mr. Collins asks everyone to leave the room, and Lizzie realizes what's about to happen. Mrs. Bennet gladly leaves as Lizzie begs everyone to stay. Collins then proposes to Lizzie in the worst way imaginable. He even goes as far as to say that no man would ever propose to her, for she is too headstrong, and this might be her last chance at marriage. Lizzie, who loathes him, rejects the proposal. Her sisters are delighted that she turned him down, but Mrs. Bennet is horrified that any opportunity for her marriage has been passed. She urges Mr. Bennet to speak to her and demands that Lizzie change her mind. If she doesn't do so, Mrs. Bennet vows to never see her again. But Mr. Bennet sides with Lizzie. Lizzie is relieved that she'll never have to talk to Mr. Collins. A letter arrives from Caroline stating that the Bingleys and Darcy are leaving Netherfield indefinitely. The letter indicates Bingley might be married to Darcy's sister Georgiana. Lizzie realizes that Caroline dragged Bingley away so she could set him up with Darcy's younger sister. Jane is bound to think that perhaps Bingley just never loved her at all. Lizzie denies and says that she is certain Bingley does love her, and that she should not give up. Lizzie tells Jane to go to London and stay with their aunt and uncle. She tells her Bingley will surely come to her once he finds out. The family bids Jane farewell the next morning as she rides off to London to seek out her love. Charlotte soon comes to visit Lizzie and tells her that she is engaged to Mr. Collins. Lizzie is appalled that she would marry such a shallow man. Charlotte replies that she is desperate. She retorts that she is 27 and in danger of becoming a poor old maid with no prospects if she does not find a financially secure husband soon. She spins around in a swing thinking about life and writes a letter to Charlotte congratulating her. Even Mr. Wickham has gone back with the militia and Lizzie is disheartened. A few weeks later, Charlotte invites Lizzie to visit her at her new home with Mr. Collins. Lizzie sees that Charlotte is genuinely happy and loves tending to her own house. Mr. Collins takes Lizzie and Charlotte to visit his neighbor and patron, the fabulously wealthy and aristocratic Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who also happens to be Darcy's aunt. Mr. Collins is towards her and makes sure he's always in her good books. Mr. Darcy also happens to be there and the two of them catch up after a long time. Lady de Bourgh is an incredibly arrogant and overbearing person. At dinner, she continually asks Lizzie about her family. She is openly disdainful of the Bennets' lower-class upbringing given that they had no governess and cannot draw or play any instruments. She is also wary of Lizzie's unseemly outspokenness and the fact that the five girls were violating proper social protocol by all being out in society at the same time. After dinner, Lady de Bourgh commands that Lizzie play the piano. Lizzie protests saying she is a poor musician, but Lady de Bourgh demands it. Even Collins urges her to do so. While Lizzie is trying her best to make it audible, Darcy comes over, and the two of them engage in some talks about past memories. Fitzwilliam comes over and asks about Lizzie's impression of her earlier encounter with Darcy, and Lizzie states that he's very antisocial and doesn't dance or sing with anybody. Darcy protests that he is not skilled in conversing with people to whom he has not been introduced, and Lizzie gives him some quick sarcastic replies. Darcy seems hurt by Lizzie's reproach. The next day, Mr. Darcy barges into the house. Lizzie is stunned to see him as he seems to try to speak to Lizzie, but at that moment, he's tongue-tied and unable to express himself. He then rushes out in an apparent state of confusion. During a boring church gathering by Mr. Collins, Lizzie and Colonel Fitzwilliam talk to each other about Mr. Darcy. Fitzwilliam reveals that Darcy was the one who had separated Mr. Bingley from Jane, not Caroline. The Colonel tells her how they all saw Jane and her family to be unfit for Charles. Lizzie is deeply hurt by this. Lizzie is running from a driving rainstorm and takes shelter when suddenly Darcy comes out of nowhere. He meets Lizzie and proclaims his love for her, saying that this is against his better judgment and despite her inferior rank and economic status. Lizzie is angry at him for what he has done to Jane, and how he so cruelly and openly shows his disdain for her family. Lizzie calls out Darcy for his haughty debonair and for interfering with Jane and Bingley. Darcy explains that he did this because he believed that Jane was not really interested in the relationship and seemed indifferent to Bingley. Liz counters that Jane is simply very shy. Darcy also makes extremely rude comments about the remaining members of the Bennet family, including her parents, which wounds Lizzie. Lizzie also brings up Mr. Wickham's claim that Darcy had cheated him out of his inheritance. Lizzie is so upset by this confrontation that she spends the rest of the day brooding about it back at the house. She tries to engage in different activities but fails. At night, Darcy comes over and drops off a letter that he has written. Lizzie says nothing as he leaves. She turns back to see him already gone. In the letter, Darcy explains the relationship he had with Wickham. Darcy's father did leave Wickham with a generous allowance. Wickham was given the full principal of it upon Darcy's father's death, but he gambled it away and came back for more. When Darcy refused, he tried to elope with Darcy's sister Georgiana to get her £30,000 inheritance. When he was told he would not get it, he disappeared. Darcy's letter also explains that Georgiana was only 15 at the time, and was thrown into a state of deep despair because of this. Darcy explained that he had separated Jane from Bingley because he truly believed that he was helping his friend and didn't want to see Charles hurt. Lizzie returns home to find out that Jane is also home from London, having failed to find Mr. Bingley. She tells Lizzie that she is quite over her love for Bingley, but Lizzie knows otherwise. She never tells Jane about her intervention with Darcy and what he had done. Just then, Kitty comes into the room crying as Lydia has been invited by Colonel Foster to go on a trip to Brighton, but she isn't. Lizzie thinks it is a bad idea as Lydia is immature and impulsive, and could get into trouble. It could be very dangerous, but her father allows it, saying Lydia has to come to terms with the world. Lizzie pleads with her father to forbid it, but he goes on encouraging it. The Bennet sisters' aunt and uncle, Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner, had come along with Jane. As they're having dinner, they declare that they will be going on a vacation in the Peak District to the north. They invite Lizzie to come with them, and she accepts. While on their travels, Lizzie's aunt and uncle mention Pemberley. When they find out about her acquaintance to Mr. Darcy, they plan a visit to Pemberley, which is his home. Lizzie is reluctant to be anywhere near the man she hates, but consents to the trip when she is told that Darcy is not present there. Lizzie is utterly awed by the extravagance and grandiose of the house and grounds, particularly a sculpture gallery where she sees a sculpture of him as well. The housekeeper gushes about what a kind, caring, and generous person Mr. Darcy is. Lizzie begins to think that her earlier impression of him may have been wrong. Lizzie goes about wandering the balls, when she peeks into a room where a very young woman is playing the piano. Suddenly Darcy enters, and he and the young woman embrace affectionately. Darcy meets Lizzie's eyes and she quickly leaves and goes outside. Darcy follows her and Lizzie apologizes for intruding. He accepts the apology and explains that he had returned from his trip early. He offers Lizzie a ride back to the inn, where she is staying, but she declines, saying that she will walk. At dinner at the inn, Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner tells Lizzie that Darcy had talked to them, and even invited them to dine with him. They seem to understand him to be a very gracious person. The next day, Georgiana is ecstatic to meet Lizzie and adds just how much Darcy has told her about Lizzie. Lizzie is delighted to hear that. Mr. Darcy asks if Mr. Gardiner would go fishing and he happily agrees. Darcy even urges Lizzie into playing piano duets with the much more talented Georgiana. The interaction between Lizzie and Darcy is completely pleasant and cordial for the first time ever. Darcy is finally learning how to speak in a pleasing way. The Gardiners, Lizzie, and Darcy all go to the inn that evening for dinner. Lizzie receives a letter and bursts into tears. The letter claims that Lydia has run away with Mr. Wickham. Darcy blames himself for this for not having exposed Wickham sooner, but Lizzie blames herself too for not being open to her sister. He then leaves and the others hurry back to Bennet's home. Mr. Bennet has gone to London to try to find Lydia and Wickham, and forces them to marry. The family is totally devastated because an incident could bring ruin upon the entire family's name. None of them will be able to marry well, and they could even lose the estate upon Mr. Bennet's death. Just then, a letter arrives from Mr. Gardiner. Mr. Bennet returns and reads Mr. Gardiner's letter saying he found them, and they will get married if Wickham is promised a settlement of £100 per year. Mr. Bennet agrees to pay it, but they are convinced that the actual demand must have been in the thousands, and that Mr. Gardiner is helping them pay it off. The newlyweds finally arrive for a visit before going to the north of England, where Wickham will be stationed. Lydia is over the moon now that she's married. At lunch, Lydia lets slip that Darcy was the one who discovered them and commenced their wedding. He even paid off Wickham and all their expenses, including stationing him to a place where he can keep an eye on Wickham. Lizzie realizes that Darcy had been noble and generous toward the Bennet family, and that he must have been the one that paid off Wickham. The Bennets later learn that Mr. Bingley is returning to town. Jane assures Lizzie that she is completely over him. Mrs. Bennet also shows indifference. A short time later, Mr. Bingley arrives at the house with Darcy. The family quickly cleans up their house and appears poised as the gentlemen arrive. Mrs. Bennet, while pretending to be indifferent, is clearly excited at the thought that Bingley will propose to Jane. But the visit is somewhat awkward to all concerned. Bingley doesn't really propose and walks away soon. Bingley and Darcy then walk a short distance from the house, where Darcy helps Bingley rehearse his proposal to Jane. Bingley is really nervous and comes back to the Bennets' household. Bingley returns and proposes to Jane, and she accepts. Lizzie soon realizes that Darcy brought Bingley back to town in an attempt to repair the damage that he had caused by separating them. She realizes that her impression of Darcy had been wrong and she had been so blind all along. She hunches over a tree and cries at having turned down such a nice man. Mr. Darcy also thinks he has no chance at love and returns back to town soon after. The Bennet family is ecstatic that evening and rejoicing. Jane tells Lizzie about the whole ordeal and wishes Lizzie to find a man of her own. She goes deep in thought about Mr. Darcy until there is a knock on the door. It is Lady de Bourgh, Darcy's aunt. After issuing a few insults, she demands to speak to Lizzie alone. She tells Lizzie that she has heard a rumor that her nephew Darcy and Lizzie are to be married. She is scandalized that he would ruin the family name by marrying into such a low-class family. She even goes as far as to say that Mr. Darcy is engaged to her daughter, Anna. She asks Lizzie if she's engaged to Darcy and Lizzie declines. She then demands Lizzie to promise that she will never marry Darcy. Lizzie refuses to do so, and tells Lady de Bourgh to leave instantly. The lady screams out saying she's never been treated that way as Lizzie has tainted the aristocracy. Lizzie had been unaware of the rumor, and realizes that it must have come from Darcy, which means that Darcy is still genuinely interested in her. She is so upset at the encounter with Lady de Bourgh that she can't sleep. Finally, just before dawn, she gets up and goes for a walk outside in the fields. She meets Darcy just then, who's also going for a walk. He hadn't been able to sleep either. He profusely apologizes for his aunt's behavior and thought of coming immediately to her. After hearing about Lizzie's refusal to deny the rumor, he confesses that he still has hope that Lizzie might marry him. Even more so, he hopes that her view of him has changed from their earlier encounters. He finally proposes to her, and at the instant, the sun rises between them. Lizzie heartily accepts. Later that morning, in Mr. Bennet's study, Darcy asks for Lizzie's hand in marriage. He quickly leaves and Lizzie goes in to talk to her father. She tells him just how wrong she had been of him and tells Mr. Bennet about everything that he's done. Mr. Bennet tells Lizzie that he couldn't have parted with her for any man inferior, and gives consent to the marriage. Her family is still shocked as they all thought she always hated him but are extremely happy for her. After their marriage, the couple stays at Pemberley and Darcy expresses just how much he loves her. They have some fun banter and continue to live their blissful and happy life.